Hello guys, good morning. Thank you for having me. To starting, I want to asking around the audience, what kind of startups that you have? Startups in here? 1, 2, 3. Medium and small companies? Enterprise or corporate? Okay, none. Okay, just to understand our audience, and great. So let's start it. So please welcome Wouter, founding partner of COREangels Algarve. Please to the stage, Mr. Wouter. There we go. Over there, please. Please welcome Mr. Timur from Founders of World Talent. There we go, sir. Over there. And last but not least, Mr. Stephan de Moraes. It's the co-founder and managing general partner of Indico Capital Partners. Okay, guys. First of all, yes?
Have a seat.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we're going to speak about the 3 first pillars in our conversation. So just to have the small idea, so the first topic will be like the rule of angels of investment, okay? Then we're going to pass for the balance global talent and the local growth. And last, the venture capital and scaling innovation in the Algarve. So, for kick off our conversation, I'm going to ask to Wouter. Okay. Sorry. For you, man. You have been instrumental in driving angel investment in the Algarve, right? So, what are the key opportunities and challenges for early stage startups?
Well, in a way, it's about the region, but I think the challenges and opportunities for startups are all over the world more or less the same, because it's very easy to say I'm starting a company, but actually building a company is something else. And I think the challenge is also the opportunity here. It's a very small ecosystem.
Yeah.
I've been running around this ecosystem for some years, and I think in 2 handshakes we are all connected. And that is a big opportunity, but it's also a challenge. It's a small ecosystem. So there's not a lot of startups, there is not a lot of mentors, there's not a lot of coaches, there's not a lot of funding. But that is also the opportunity, because basically in 2 handshakes, you know everybody. And for startups, I think it's, from our angel investment point of view, it's very important to talk about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. And also think about and consider very thoroughly, what am I good in? And many techies, they fund a company and they start a company. But the techies are not more or less the best in marketing or the best in sales. And the drive is to own a company and to keep it for yourself, while the big challenge is to share it. And for angel investors, they come in really early. And they add more than just money. They add their knowledge, their networks, their experience. And for early stage startups, there's so much to gain. So I think that is, the opportunity is, and the challenges is the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's very nice.
Actually, it's not money for money. It's money with some assets, knowledge, networking, and all this kind of things.
A lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and some money. That's one of the big differences from where I come from in Amsterdam. Money is always involved. Investment is about money, always. but the amount of money that is required to start a company, to fund a founder for 1 year, it's the difference is so big. You can do so much with relatively a little money in this region. That is so great. That's a really big opportunity.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wouter. Timur, a question for you, man. What roles international talent play in devising in the Algarve economy beyond the traditional sectors like tourism?
Well, I'm Timur, who doesn't know me. It's an interesting question. Let me process it, and just to somehow connect why you're asking me, is that World Talents is the company which helps entrepreneurs from around the world to enjoy the pleasures of global mobility, and so it happens that most of them end here in Portugal, and primarily and mainly in the region of Algarve, where we've been actively working with the university, connecting them with the local ecosystem. And the question would, let me ask you, how, can you repeat the question again? I just need to understand it better.
Okay, Timur, just a second. So regarding of the diversity of the Algarve, right, in the ecosystem, regarding of the investment on talent, on tourism.
Well, Algarve as the region is not the first region to be in the situation when it needs to overcome, let's say, the tourism trap. And if you think globally at examples of such, there will be plenty, and then probably the most right in the eye one will be California, which was not the tech capital of the world before the 70s and 80s, and it was heavily dependent as well on the tourism. But then somehow today you have the #1 global state, which would probably be responsible. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think California is, if you look at the GDP rankings,
yeah,
I think California will be maybe the 5th or the 6th, somewhere there, mainly due to the tech companies located there. So that's a successful example. But at the same time, you will have many which couldn't do that. But seeing what is happening in the Algarve and watching and participating in its development through the years, I can say that I think the region is on its very good track to overcome the obstacles. And the importance is to not only attract the global talent, but as well to retain it and connect them with the, I have to repeat myself, local ecosystem. So the actors, the stakeholders, need to be equally involved in the processes. And and we have somebody here on the front row. They are like checking his phone. That's Miguel. He's probably #1 in making sure that the entrepreneurs who we bring are exposed to the opportunities existing in the system. So only this month we have 5 visits of entrepreneurs with the total turnover of the companies of those guys is exceeding well above $3 billion US. And these gentlemen over there has been solely responsible for connecting them with the Algarve evolution, with not with the university. I mean, we're missing Hugo. He's not here right now. And the University of Algarve, thank you for making this happen. Yeah, so I guess that connection is the key element. But there is plenty of those. And it needs to be a joint effort between the stakeholders and the public entities, agencies, and the government.
So it's about the hub, as Ricardo Lima says. In the Algarve, we have the curse and the bless of our region, right, Ricardo? And we have to fight on that and bring more talent to our local region.
And retain it.
And retain, obvious, and retain, for sure. Stephan, as someone who's invests heavily in tech ecosystem, what factors make Algarve a compelling place for venture capital on future investments in local startups?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here in the Algarve. There's very rarely a conference or in such a setting, right, where you can watch. I can almost see some waves I could surf almost. It's kind of small, but it's really nice. And it's good to see the evolution of the ecosystem here because, you know, we've been investing, I'm Portuguese as well, and I've been sort of part of the driving force of the Portuguese ecosystem for over a decade. And we've seen the Algarve coming up and up with this mix of diverse nationalities and lots of interesting people from all over the world, and that's great to see. We at Indico, for those that don't know, manage about 220 million. We've backed 49 companies in the last 5 years, and those companies have raised more than $2 billion in the last 5 years. And before that, we had backed other unicorns. So altogether in the last decade, 6 unicorns, either invested by us or founded by our team. And I think that, you know, the question about why is the Algarve special, I'm going to spin it in another way, as I had told you, because number one, the question that people, particularly entrepreneurs, need to ask themselves is my company or my idea globally scalable or not? And I think that nowadays a lot of people believe that they have a globally scalable startup and they might just have a great business. And that's fine. You don't need to be a globally scalable startup to have a great business. But it is very important that you understand that distinction, because if you have a business that is not easily scalable globally quickly, then you need to focus on profitability. You have to have a local or national or regional business, eventually global, but you're not appropriate for venture capital. Maybe for some angels, depends on the angels, but maybe not for venture capital. And that's fine, and we should not focus only on startups. We should focus on great businesses, and there's lots of great businesses that you can have a wonderful life, make money, have fun, be at the beach, and not worry about venture capital. If you are worried with venture capital, it means that your company is solving a global problem in a way that is 10 times better than everybody else out there in the whole world. If you cannot answer that question, you are not appropriate for venture capital. And secondly, it must be a very, very big problem. So, because we only invest in stuff that can potentially grow to become hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars per year in revenues. If that's your company, great, we want to meet you. If you don't believe in that yourself, you shouldn't even contact us. And by the way, we get probably 100 to 150 pitches per week. It is extremely easy to get in touch. And when I find regions where people say, well, you know, but I cannot access capital, yeah, you're like auto-excluding yourself, because anybody that is a good entrepreneur will know who's who and who has the money and who has the capacity. If you don't know it, you shouldn't be in the game. If you're in a game, you need to know the rules of the game. You need to know who are the players. If you don't know who are the players, if you circumscribe yourself to the Algarve tech ecosystem or to the Portuguese ecosystem, you should not be in the game because you don't know the rules. You are a global player. If you're not a global player, you should not be in venture capital or in the startup business. You are in the business of making money from day one with your company. So what I would tell and what we've been telling for more than a decade all over the country and elsewhere, sometimes we get invited also to speak in regional events all over the world, is you have to have a global ambition from day one. You're not going to sell in the Algarve, you're not going to sell in Portugal, and probably you're not going to sell in Europe. Probably you're going to sell in the US. That is your market. Whether you're in Albufeira, Lisbon, or Reykjavik, or Miami, you are looking at the US market if you are a venture capital based type of company. If you are not thinking of the US market from day one, you're out of the game. That's where 2/3 of the software market are in the world. That's where AI is at the top of the world. That's where the corporate buyers are at. That's where the capital markets where we will do your IPO are. It's not in the Algarve. It's not in Lisbon. It's probably not even in Europe. So do not try to be Algarve. Try to be global from day one. That's my main message. Think globally. Do not limit yourself. Do not think, oh, I'm here in the Algarve. No, you're not in the Algarve. You are in a global platform. It has never been so easy to raise capital and to go global since, ever in the history of time.
Yeah, it makes all the sense because I understand the lifestyle business, but when we spoke regarding the venture capital in Algarve, I look as like a trampoline from the world, right? So you can start in here, and then you achieve obvious to focus to the problem and solve the things, and then you grow obviously going to another markets. But
the problem is if you start here, and I would include Portugal, if you start by saying, I will start by selling in Portugal, you will not sell.
Now I understand you, but
you have to start selling somewhere else quickly because here people do not buy, do not have the purchasing power, decisions are not taken quickly enough by corporates. At least start in Holland. If you want to start small, that's where people have money. That's where people buy quickly.
You're tall, huh?
Right? That's where people are tall. Do not start selling in Portugal. It will take forever. It will go nowhere. You have to start immediately in a place where your product really gets picked up.
A field very fertile. Yeah, I understand. And thank you for your kind words. Timur, are you there, man? Yeah. Man, how can the Algarve balance the need for foreign investment in the development of the local talent and business?
Well, that's the question to be answered actually as a continuation of Stephan's reply to what you've been asking. And about he was more concentrated on the VC, but then there is more to that. You have to nurture entrepreneurship as a thing in the region. An interesting example is set in a very close city in Malaga, which I was lucky to visit just recently. Is there anybody from Spain? Hello, Spain. So Malaga, they have an amazing business incubator, which solely works with the entrepreneurs who are studying at the university. So they've been running it for more than 10 years. Every year they have grants to provide for the businesses, which are started by the students. Obviously, most of them fail at the year 1 or year 2. But what's important is that they are building up the tradition and the continuity of their entrepreneurial development. So to nurture and to grow the entrepreneurs, you need to have them exposed to the examples of how it can be done. That the way to be is not only to go and work in a local company which sells to the local businesses, but to be exposed to the examples of global entrepreneurs who are actually predominantly from the States, with companies running all around the world, and most of them are they originate not from the States, meaning they went there either from Portugal, Netherlands, doesn't matter, South Africa, and they all are, and they can be an example of that success. So what can be done is that connection built between the entrepreneurial ecosystem existing here and outside Portugal. Would that be something which could serve as an answer to your question? But
yes.
Go a little more.
Actually, it's. I believe I can put it develop more top because one of the things that Algarve, this Algarve Tech Hub wants to put it on the field. It's like the entrepreneurship lock on the schools. Will be like a role model that it's quite nice because I have sons and probably Stephan has sons. or not, but we need to plant the seeds on the ends of these childs, and the kind of thinking, entrepreneurship thinking, it's quite different because our minds are molded as education and everything, but it's more than that. So we need to plant that seed, as you told me, starting on the beginning, just rolling.
You need to provide in the mind.
Expose this kind of thing.
And then that will change the market because, well, attracting foreigners and balancing it with the local businesses is a win-win if it's done correctly.
Yeah, for sure.
So you don't want to have the foreigners to just dominate the local ecosystem and the economy. You want them to be balanced. But at the same time, the new businesses coming to Portugal, they set up a certain benchmark for the local businesses to grow. You can see that on small scale examples such as restaurants and coffee shops, which quality grew rapidly through the past 5 years, or you can compare that to many different other types of businesses. But that's one angle, to nurture the entrepreneurship. Another angle is to make sure that once again the community is involved, and then there is a balance between
and have a support on that path, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Wouter, from your experience, what are the most effective strategies to attract both local and international investors to the Algarve?
Yeah, I have a love-hate relation to VC, and that's interesting because, yes, when you start, you have to believe in what you do, otherwise you don't have to start. But the chance that your first startup is going to end up in an IPO in the US is 0.000 something. But that should not be a reason to say, okay, you're not in the game. So if you are never going to start, you will never be playing the game. So it's more important to start and to play than that you have your sole goal being this billionaire having an IPO in the US. So that's an interesting mixture of what angel investors do and what venture capitalists do, but they go hand in hand, because what is not suitable for VCs can be suitable for angels, and what is invested by angels and nurtured by angels and coached by angels can become suitable for the VCs. And I think for the region, why the region is important, is that it is the ecosystem. Yeah, it's a bit of a boring word becoming because it's mentioned I think 1,000 times already today. But the ecosystem is important because it's a vulnerable economy here. We've seen it when COVID hit. It was dead. So to be a resilient region, we all have to work together to get this ecosystem running. And so yes, it is important that you are Algarvian because we have to nurture the kids to learn. And my kids go to school, and from the year 11, or from age of 11, they are now starting up pitches, and they can do a startup competition. And the parents, they put in a little bit of money, but still they learn that it is an option. And for our investors, I think many of them, what they want is that the startup has an economic tie to the region. So it doesn't have to be a product that fits only in the region, or the founder has to be living here, but it has to be an economic tie to the region. Because I think everybody that wants to live somewhere has to be part of where he is living. And that's, so for investors, that's important. And I think for the startups, it's the same. They, come out and play, because that's basically what it is.
Just to add what Stephan says, because we all must understand, because Stephan are on the venture capital, and obvious it's related with high-end, or the maturity of that company is more higher. So entering on a venture capital world. So obviously your stage it's more earlier. So
Absolutely.
but we need all that kind of machinery of investment just to push and pull the evolution of the company until too obvious. Stephan enters on the field and says, okay, so it's a good company to invest, but all the startups must to be from the early stage and that need that kind of support of investment and networking and connections until achieve that growth stage that can able to provide and pitch to the VCs.
Yeah, and the funny, the big examples of the Microsoft and Mark Zuckerberg being his self-made man, but Bill Gates was supported by his parents. And he was not this self-made guy who had no money, and Apple was built in a garage. Yeah, of course. But those kids were not born and raised in a backcountry of a poor region. They were born and raised in rich families. And that is what we all need to do. So we also have to be honest about the dreams that are out there.
Thank you, Wouter. We just run the time, but I need to put it another question to Stephan. What are the key elements that investors should look for when supporting startups in more nascent ecosystem like the Algarve?
Yeah, I think I've partially replied to that, but I want to sort of complement what has just been commented. It is extremely important that regardless of the region where you are, there are organizations like this, good universities to propel the ideas forward and develop deeper thinking and science and technology, particularly if you want to build scalable companies. It is extremely important that you have incubators and accelerators and business angels that put their own money to propel, and also VCs, because I mean, for example, we started at 250,000. So sometimes there's a product but basically no clients. So very much like angels. And angels are super important and very rare in Portugal because there's very few people that actually have made money out of technology and are reinvesting. And so there should be more angels so that they actually prepare the companies more. Out of the 7 Portuguese unicorns, and we've been involved in 5 of them, not a single one had a business angel behind it.
Okay.
In all the unicorns coming out of Portugal, right? So we need more angels for sure. But that takes time because you need the entrepreneurs to go through the motions and then sell their company and then become business angels or become VCs as my partner.
Culture investment, right?
It takes time, even these Portuguese tech champions that are Portuguese American essentially, and some of them have, well, one of them was an IPO and then it became a bankrupt company, but it became Farfetch became a super successful company for a while. That is really the only IPO that happened in the Portuguese ecosystem. And then there's very few that have either been actually bought or sold to big corporates. So these things take time. I've been back to Portugal for 12 years now, and I saw the evolution of the first few entrepreneurs that wanted to become Mark Zuckerberg, and some of them are on the way, but they're still on the way. Yeah. It takes time. It takes like 20 years for an ecosystem to be built. It took 20 to 30 for Berlin and London, and Silicon Valley is 70 years old. And I think Portugal is not doing bad, and Algarve is part of that movement. But what I say is, let's not forget, if you have a good business, concentrate on making it profitable as quickly as possible. If you think you reply to those questions, are you globally scalable because you are solving a problem that nobody else has solved in that way, that you are 10 times better than everybody else, and you can grow quickly all over the world with that solution? You can do it from the Algarve today, because there's remote people, there's talent here, there's talent all over the world. You need capital. There's a lot of capital. There's lots of funds in Portugal with a lot of capital, and all the top funds come to Portugal. We had Sequoia in our office a few months ago. I mean, all the top funds are in Portugal. They come, they talk to us, they call us. What do you have? What's new in your ecosystem? So we are the scouts for the top funds in the valley, really. I mean, we provide them with the deal flow. So there is no lack of money. There's no lack of people. There's just, number one, lack of good ideas, and then really, really lack of good execution. It's all about having the right idea to conquer the world and then actually doing it. And that is super hard.
Yeah.
But you have the people. As people everywhere, if you have the ideas and the execution capacity, we will give you the money. No doubt about that. But we invest in 1% of the companies that come to us. 1%. And then out of those 1%, out of the 49 we have now, 3 are unicorns, which is already a miracle, right? It should be only 1 maybe. So it's 1% of 1%. It's a really, really difficult math.
Yeah.
So if you have a business that makes money, concentrate on making money. If you have a business that is scalable, go and conquer the world. Doesn't matter where you come from. Algarve, Lisbon, well, it doesn't matter.
One last question, and I'm sorry, guys, for the organization. I know, man. I know. It's
Say something to us.
it's open question. It's even we don't discuss that, but because we have like a startups in here, and I think it's quite nice that bring your thoughts on that. What is your secret sauce? This is like open panel question. What is your secret sauce? Just to says, okay, so I need more information about that startup. What is your secret sauce? That obviously you have a lot of experience on that, and when you heard or read or whatever, what is the thing, you know?
If you have, as an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to swim in several lanes and switch lanes, and the funny thing on the region is it's Europe. It's hot, it's dry, but it's still Europe. So if you are in this field somewhere in Europe and you want to conquer the world, well, it's easier to start in Europe. So that's a perfect region to do that.
Okay.
And the rest, yeah, what it is, technology can be developed from everywhere. So, yeah.
You want to go after?
It's open question. If you guys want to answer it, you can. It's not mandatory to respond. It's just open.
I get it. That's why I'm still thinking and not saying anything.
I'm happy to contribute here. In addition to this thing of the product and the scalability and the global, really the secret sauce when you look at all the success cases globally, not only the ones we participated, but when you look at the things that worked really well, it's the personality of the entrepreneur. That's why when we do rounds above $1 million or $2 million, we do heavy psychological analysis, because it's about having the level of ambition, grit, and leadership to surround yourself with amazing people from day one, even when you don't have money. So you have to be super, super inspiring, super hardworking, almost obsessive, sometimes not a good character, because these are people that are a bit crazy. When you look at the people that have made it big, and these are very, very special people, hardworking, grit, super leaders which surround themselves with senior people. The sooner the better you surround yourself with people that know way more than you about all the stuff that needs to happen around you so that you reach the big leagues. Those are the things that are extremely difficult to find.
Secret source. Yeah.
And it's not easy to find that and to sort of sort that out in a personality in half an hour. That's what the second part of our due diligence is. Who are these people? Can we trust them? Can they work with us? Will they be working, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, for years on end, and bringing people from all over the world behind their vision? That's very hard. Not everybody's like that. Thank God. Otherwise, everybody would go crazy.
Sure.
Something to top up between the hardworking, amazing founder. There is one skill or one piece of character which cannot be missing, at least from my experience and an observation, is that the founder needs to lack no dedication to their network and ability to work with people and be part of something bigger than just they are, only there. So network is probably just right behind the founder.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you for your time. We just run our time like 10 minutes, and I'm sorry for that. Apologize.
That was amazing, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.